Hey friends, Nicole Bascopay here, and today I am going to share with you something that I get asked a lot about by my brides or even just friends of mine who are planning their own wedding, and that is how can you save money without sacrificing the entire wedding and still make it nice and still make it everything that you dreamed of, or almost everything that you dreamed of. So I'm going to share with you my top 5 tips for doing that. So get your pens and papers and let's get started. Okay, so first things first, the first thing that I always tell brides when we're talking about cutting down budget is you don't have to sacrifice the venue if you find a venue that you love. You don't have to sacrifice the venue, but maybe we work with the date. So, for example, if you are looking for a Friday or a Sunday, that's going to be a lot significantly cheaper than if you are wanting to have your wedding on a Saturday or even a holiday weekend. And I know the appeal of having your wedding on a Saturday or on a holiday weekend, especially for guests to be able to travel and whatnot. But the fact of the matter is those days are just more expensive, meaning that is less money that you have towards other elements of the wedding. So if you can and you're married, pun intended, to the venue, see what their pricing is for Fridays or for Sundays. The second way that I recommend, I have my notes here, is having a signature drink. So talk to your caterer about this. They'll be able to help you, go over this as well. But having a signature drink is a great way to cut off a little bit of cost from the alcohol portion, from that catering, food and beverage portion of the wedding. The reason is because having that signature drink, especially in the first hour, that cocktail hour, most people, not everybody, but most people are going to want to try the signature drink, especially if it's pretty and fun and has a cute name that has something to do, with your story or the blushing bride or something like that with cute signage. They're going to want to try that signature drink. And that is a drink that you have control over the alcohol that goes in it. So we're able to make a sangria or a champagne cocktail that has maybe some budget-friendly or house wine or champagne in it that you can also buy in bulk from Costco or something like that. So that's going to cut down significantly on your food and beverage, particularly in that first hour. Number 3. Repurpose floral arrangements. This is my favorite. I cannot tell you how sad it makes me when I see these beautiful floral arrangements, whether they're down the aisle or they're on the arch, and then after 20 minutes, after the ceremony is over with, they just sit there and the florist comes at the end of the night and takes them away, or they sit there and guests will bring them home with them. You guys, repurpose those arrangements and repurpose your bridesmaids' bouquets. Take the arch, the flowers that were on the arch or down the aisle, and put them on a buffet. Put them on your cake table or on the bars, the guest book table, anywhere. You can put those around the venue for so much extra, ambiance and decor. And the bridal bouquet and the bridesmaids bouquets, make sure that your florist leaves those glass vases and you can repurpose those onto your dining tables. So you don't have to add an extra, let's say you have 6 bridesmaids, you don't have to add an extra 6 arrangements. You take those bridesmaids bouquets, plop them on the table, throw some tea light candles around them, maybe a few bud vases, and it's beautiful. Okay. Number 4, having just one small cake tier. Okay, so I am a huge fan of cake. I do not think I have ever worked a wedding that I did not try the cake. Even though I'm a health and fitness coach, I always eat the wedding cake. It is just my jam. But I have found, in as many weddings that I've done, that most people actually don't. It's one of the things that we throw away at the end of the night the most. So that being said, you don't need one piece of cake per person. And hopefully your cake baker will advise you of that. I say about 70% of your guest count should be the number of servings of cake that you provide. But a lot of the expense in your cake is in those tiers and the decorations and the time that goes into it, and rightfully so. But if you just have that one small tier for presentation, for pictures, and for a formal cake cutting, and have a sheet cake in the back for the caterers to cut, you're going to save a huge chunk of money, and people still get cake. Excuse me. And on a side note, my big pet peeve is who wants to see the catering staff carrying and trying to balance cake all the way across the venue after it's been cut so that they can cut it in the kitchen. This way, they're only carrying the one small piece that you're probably going to save for your year anniversary. The sheet cake is already in the back in the kitchen, ready to go out, and you've saved some extra money. And the last thing that we have, and this is, I swear by this, in my opinion, this is the #1 way to save money on your wedding cost, is to cut your guest count. And nobody likes to hear that because we want to invite all of our friends and family and coworkers and everybody, you know, that we want to be surrounded with on our special day. I get it. I've been there. I know the feeling. But the fact of the matter is, it is a 5-hour event, and the best way to save money is to cut that guest count down. So we're going to still have Aunt Susie there and, you know, your best friend from childhood or whatever it may be. But maybe we don't need all the coworkers and people that you haven't talked to more than twice a year. The reason that this cuts down so much on your budget is because one of the biggest, if not the biggest entity of your wedding budget is your catering. I worked for a caterer for many, many years, so I know this. And that being said, catering is not just food. It's food, alcohol, oftentimes linens, china, glassware, silverware, tables, and chairs, all of that. So if you cut down even just 10 people, you're not just cutting down 10 pieces of chicken, you're cutting down all of that cost, and it adds up so much. Like I said, even if it's just 10 people, but imagine if you cut 25 people off the guest list or even more. So that, in my opinion, is the #1 way to cut your budget, is to cut your guest count. And on top of catering, then that also includes, you know, the flowers that go on the table and invitations and favors and things like that. But that catering portion for your guests, that is going to be a huge money saver. So I hope this has been helpful. This is a follow-up to my series that I did yesterday on my top wedding planning do's and don'ts. I would love some feedback. I would love to hear your questions and anything that you may want to see from me in the future. Please reach out and let me know. Have a great night, guys.